Hi guys, welcome to another roster review by Glasshammer Gaming. I went up to Element Games on the weekend and played in a 60-man tournament and came third with Aeldari, and this is me talking through my list and how it works. Okay, section 1 is the army list. Just before we start, guys, being as you're watching right now, please hit that like and subscribe, the bell, all that kind of general stuff, so you know when we release videos. And also as well, this kind of breakdown of armies and tournament updates is what goes on a lot in our Elite Discord channel. So if you want to join the Elite, this is kind of what we're talking about all through the week, and you can join our community of trying to make these lists better and do better at tournaments. So, right, walking through it, it's an Arcs of Omen detachment. Obviously, it has to be now. It's Aeldari, it's just pure Aeldari or Aeldari or whatever keyword it is they're using right now. And it's a custom Craftworld, and it's masterful shots and vengeful. So that means that they are ignoring cover when they're shooting, which I think combined with pretty much all their shuriken weapons being -1 AP, I think brings that damage level up hugely, which is why I haven't gone down the Hail of Doom route. And then Vengeful is exploding 6s to hit in combat, because I've got quite a lot of combat units in here. It's not your traditional shooty Aeldari list. So in my slots where I've got nothing in there, I've got 2 Warlocks. I've got a Warlock Skyrunner, and he has Enhance, which is +1 to hit as a psychic power. And then I've put the relic on him, the Sunstorm relic, which makes him Obsec, and it increases his move to like 20 inches. He's really useful. And the Obsec is actually very important for the secondaries, which we'll cover later. I then have a Warlock, just 1 Warlock on foot, and he has Quicken, and that gives me access to a lot of secondaries, which we'll also go through later. Then I've got my 3 HQs. I've got a Farseer with Fateful Divergence and Focus Will, which is +1 CP and +2 to cast on a Psyker in the army. And then I've got a Farseer Skyrunner with Guide and Doom, because who leaves home without Guide and Doom? And then Baroth. The monster Baroth. If you are taking an Aeldari army, you has to have Baroth in there, so that's a must. I've got 3 units of Dire Avengers, 2 units of 7, and a unit of 9. All the Exarchs have the double shurikens because they're free. I've got 2 units of Banshees. One has Mirror Swords and Piercing Strikes. That's your typical one that you see. That's the one with 10 attacks at flat 2 damage, -3. She is incredible. And then the other 5 Banshees, they have the Crone Scream and the Nerve Shredding Shriek. So effectively, they go in, and if you roll 2 2+s, she does D3 + 2 mortal wounds, which is really useful into, say, like characters or something like that. I've got 5 Scorpions. I love the Scorpions because of the first turn threat they offer an Aeldari army. And he's got, the Exarch has the Biting Blade and the Crushing Blows. That is very much the typical one you see because it is busted. After that, I've got 3 Shining Spears with Heart Strike and Kane's Lance. It's another way of me giving fight last to the army, which is very useful if you sending like Baroth and these combat units in. And then Heart Strike as well means that he's doing mortal wounds on 5s to wound with 4 rerolls, which is amazingly useful sometimes because he's got the exploding 6s to hit. I've got 5 Shroud Runners. They come with scatter lasers and sniper rifles. Amazing unit. If you've not tried them yet, I would recommend it. And then 9 Swooping Hawks. I put the Hawk's Talon on the Exarch. It's just I had some points spare at the end, and it's kind of useful. We all know what Swooping Hawks do. We all know how broken they are. I've taken a D cannon because I wanted a unit that I could sit at the back on my home objective. It's very much an army that plays forward and goes and interacts with my opponent. So I thought it was quite nice to have a unit sitting at the back on an objective that can keep, it's not very often it does something, but it's at least got that opportunity to go and do something, which is quite nice. And then I've got 2 Wave Serpents in there as well. You don't see 2 Wave Serpents very often, but it's very important to how the army plays, which we'll go through in a later segment. Now, so that's section 1. Let's move on to how it works. So, section 2, how it works. Now, I've had a few practice games with this. I've switched a few things in, and it's very much kind of, I think, falls into quite a pressure list. It's definitely going forward, and it's trying to push your opponent back and giving them very long threat ranges. So You'll notice that I've put quite a mix in there of shooting and combat, like we said before. And that's basically because, and it's a lot of it is aspect warriors, and that is so it unlocks the Wrath of Cain secondary, where basically I get points for killing something in shooting with an aspect warrior, something in combat with an aspect warrior, and then I get double the points if I do both of them. And so I've built the list very much to give me as many choices as you can with secondaries. The worst thing you can do when going into a tournament is get in there and going, oh, I've only got 2 secondaries. This third secondary, I'm going to take this. I'm going to get 5 points on it, because it can just rule you out of games. So I thought it was very important to give me a lot of choices in secondaries. So that's why you'll see a lot of it is aspect warriors, and then having that combat in there as well. So Baroth. I mean, everyone knows about Baroth, right? That's why you take him. A lot of people ask me about why I take Enhance, which is +1 to hit. It's not something you see a lot of people take. But what that does is that lets me use Guide on a unit, like a unit of Dire Avengers or the Hawks. And then if I put +1 to hit on, say, a Banshee unit in combat, it's effectively, the maths is very similar to Guide. Hitting on 2s with exploding 6s is the same as just re-rolling all your hits hitting on 3s. So it gives me effectively 2 guides in the army. And when you want to go and shoot something reliably and hit something in combat reliably, because you've got to score those secondaries, then it is very important. And I found it to be very effective. The other Warlock has Quicken for exactly the same reason. It opens up that Warp Ritual secondary for me. So I can move forward with my Warlock or my Farseer on the bike. I can do Warp Ritual in the middle, and then I can quicken them back and keep them safe. With the Fate dice, I can get it off quite reliably. So again, I'm just giving myself options there, which is what I'm trying to do. The Farseer with Fateful Divergence and Focus Will, he's like the +1 CP. I think is awesome because there's loads of cool stratagems that you want to use in Eldar just generally, and then Focus Will is great for kind of like because sometimes you roll those 3s on the Fate dice, which makes a psychic power a 6, but sometimes you don't. And then being able to get Guide and Doom off on a 4 and a 5 instead of a 6 and a 7 is huge. Like, the chances go up immensely. So I've not taken it before, and I've failed powers when I've really needed them most. So I tend to take him a lot. I do really like him. The Dire Avengers, everyone knows about Dire Avengers, how good they are. The reason I take 2 lots of 7 and a unit of 9 is the 9 goes in Deep Strike and can come down and just hit something hard. They can the Dire Avengers can score Rod, so that unit can Deep Strike, say, in my opponent's back quarter, shoot something to death with Guide and Doom, and then the kind of the exploding 6s and stuff, and then they can do Rod for me as well if I've gone down the Rod route. And then the 7 Dire Avengers go in the Wave Serpents, so I can set the Wave Serpents up, get out, kill something, score points. Like, it's very much going forward and putting the pressure on them. In the Wave Serpents, I have a unit of 7 Dire Avengers and a unit of 5 Banshees, and it is probably the best little kind of unit combo in the list. It's just so powerful. Like, with the Fate dice, if I roll a 1 and a 2, and I can roll 1s and 2s, guys. So I'm doing this quite reliably. I can get the Banshees out 17 inches and then auto charge them 7. So if you're within 25 inches of my Wave Serpent, I can shoot you with the Dire Avengers and then charge you with I can charge you with those Howling Banshees. And then going in there, hitting on 2s with exploding 6s with +1 to wound, will muller most things. Like, there's not a lot there, not like, unless your toughness 8, it's winning you on 4s. And they just shred. They're so good. They're making you fight last. They're turning off Overwatch. They are. People who say they don't like Banshees really need to kind of unlock their potential in moving them into an area with a Wave Serpent, keeping them protected, and then that threat range to your opponent is massive. The Scorpions, as I said before, they just deploy forward, and if you go first, it gives that, because a lot of people can do this null deploying and stuff now. There's a lot of terrain out there to stop armies getting shot off the board. So the Scorpions go forward. They stop things pushing forward before the game, which is really useful because of the order in which you have to use your redeploys and stuff now. So the person going first has to move the first unit. So the Scorpions can go there and just block something off if your opponent goes first. But then if I go first, like, there's not much of it. If they start 9 inches away, then they move 7 forward. then I can go, yeah, there you go, guaranteed 7-inch charge. It's really hard to stay out of that range of them, and keep anything out of that range. Or if you, let's say they do, it stops them playing the mission, and then you just pull them back with Phantasm back into your deployment zone. So I love the Scorpions, and then the Crushing Blows, the Biting Blade. You've all seen it before. He gets like 7 attacks at a -2 flat 2 damage, and then I've got the double exploding 6s. I mean, you have to reroll. Like I have to roll to wound with those, but like say I make them hit on 2s, I'm just going in there and going, yeah, there you go. There's 6 2s. There's 6 auto wounds on those guys there, right? It's he's wicked. Like they'll take tanks out and all sorts. The spears I put in there are like very much for Wrath of Cain. They're a great little unit. They can go and shoot something to death. They can combat something to death. So they're very useful. Like in some games, they're not incredible, and I tend not to use them to push it forward. They're very much a sit at the back, and if something comes from my characters or my objectives, they'll move out and they'll try and take care of that. So that's what they're in there for. The 5 Shroud Runners are sick. They're so good. They are. Because I was using them for a bit and I thought they were good. Then I realised they hit on 2s because they're snipers. So that is for 150 points. That's 30 strength 6 shots hitting on 2s and 5 sniper rifles. It's just mint. Like the power that they can lay down, and with Ignore's cover, even 5 Marines sat on cover, you'll pick up like 4 of them. Like you're wiping out these squads from 36 inches away, and then fire and fade in. It's just, they're class. They're really, really useful guys. Definitely give them a go now they've had their points drop. They've got some cool strats as well to use, which is awesome. And their pre-game move as well. People do not like that pre-game move. So a very well-rounded unit with loads of rules. 9 Swooping Hawks. We all know what Swooping Hawks do, and I like them. A lot of people are saying that they're not worth their points anymore. But just one unit is very easy to hide. It unlocks that mortal wound stratagem if they pass over something. But then what it does is, say they put a unit on, say, the middle objective. I can move out and kill that unit and come back without risking a 1 on a battle focus move. Without spending 2 CPs on a fire and fade. I can use that somewhere else as well. So I really like them, just for giving me that option to go and remove something without trading a unit. And there's not a lot of units in this, so I do think that is very important. The D-Cannon, as I said before, was just a sit unit at the back that can actually do something rather than just being a waste of points sat there. So I've had him go like, bang, there's a Rhino dead turn 1, which was awesome. But most games he sits there, rolls 1 shot and misses. That's kind of what he does. But he scores me points by sitting on my home objective, which is cool. It's also a nice little unit as well in those missions where you need to do an action on an objective and stuff like that. So they're kind of cool. Then I've got 2 Wave Serpents. Like I said before, I don't see very many Eldar players running the 2 Wave Serpents, but since I've had them, I've found them so useful because like I said, I've got that Banshee threat, that 25-inch Banshee threat, and you can just push them forward and sit them behind a ruin. And they're really, really hard to open. A lot harder than a lot of opponents give them credit for, especially if you think they're going to have to come and do that. Because they will. If they don't, they've got Banshees and Dire Avengers hitting them in the face. So you can just keep a couple of 6s on your fate dice. And then with that 5-up invuln and the transhuman, it's so tough. And then, yeah, you just start running into their lines. That Wave Serpent can then just fly off and go grab behind enemy lines for you. Or sit on a middle objective because they're tough and people do not want to put that much firepower into a unit that's just sitting in the middle with nothing in it. You can be charging things with them. You can turn Overwatch with them with stratagems. They're awesome. I do love those Wave Serpents, and a lot of people think that's like 300 points wasted, but they offer so much to the list, and I do think they're very important for how it works. So secondary choices, as I've said before, you've got the Wrath of Cain, and then you've got the Warp Ritual in the middle. I actually do quite like the Eldar Psychic one, which is Scry Futures. So you just get 3 points for doing psychic actions on objectives. The only downside to it is you have to control that objective. So having that Warlock that's OBSEC, just nip out, say, turns 4 or 5 or whatever and go, I'm OBSEC, I've cast this power, I'm grabbing that. I'm usually getting 12 on that. quite consistently. It's a really good stratagem, a really good secondary. I do really like it. Then what other secondaries am I taking? So you've got Rod, as I said, with the Dire Avengers. That's really cool. Behind enemy lines, I take pretty much every game because, like I said, it's one of those armies that wants to push forward and go and kind of grab that. And then you've got like your general ones. Like obviously they're giving stuff up. So like you if you're playing against Space Marines, which is everywhere, like taking wounds out because like this can kill Space Marines so well. The Banshees pick them up, the Scorpions pick them up. Baroth goes in and wipes out a unit of Marines on his own. It's just like it picks Marines up very well. But it can pick vehicles up, like the Banshees with their +1 to wound, the Scorpions, the Shroud Runners. As soon as you put Doom on something and then you start firing a bunch of -2, -4 AP shots from the Dire Avengers, it will die, even if you wounded it on 5s because you've got those 4 rerolls. So you can kill a lot. It's very killy. So if your opponent unlocks one of those killy ones, you can take those. But then you've got Rod, a psychic one behind enemy lines, just to fall back on just in case. And then let's say they don't tick all the boxes of the wounds. You've got the Wrath of Cain if they've got lots of little units kind of here and there to just pick up that. And like whenever I take Wrath of Cain, you can pretty much get 10 to 12 on that quite easily because you are killing a lot. Because the damage that Eldar can do are awesome. Stratagems that I mentioned in there. So the ones like Forewarned is awesome. A lot of people don't know about Forewarned and how it works. They're like, they think they've got to be in range of the Farseer and stuff. That's not how it works. You just got to have, my unit's got to be within 12 of a Farseer and things like that. I said you've got the Hawk one with the Hawk. When they pass over a unit, they can do mortal wounds. That's very useful. That's killed a lot of important units for me before. What else have we got? So the Exploding Sixes, I can't remember what it's called. Exploding Sixes with Shuriken weapons, basically. On a Dire Avenger, I tend to use it on a Dire Avenger unit that I can't get guide onto, and it just brings those averages back up for them. So I do use that one quite a lot. Fire and Fade is every turn now. With that Farseer in there that's giving me +1 CP each turn. So I'm getting kind of like 3 effectively in a battle round. It lets you use Fire and Fade a lot if you need to. So that's a very important change. Lightning Fast is just awesome. Just because of the amount of CPs that I've got, I can use it all the time. And it's very frustrating for opponents, especially because in a lot of these things, you're just taking units for the Exarch, and with a 5 up in Vun with the Fate dice, and then you make a -1 to hit and all that kind of stuff as well. Like it's really cool. So yeah, there's a lot of stratagems in Eldar. Oh, and the biggest one is like Phantasm, right? Phantasm's just amazing. I do make sure I always warn my opponents, and I go, look, wherever something is deployed, that doesn't mean it's going to start there. I pretty much always Phantasm. There's not very many games when I won't, because I'm either looking to pull units back and make them safe, like the Scorpions and maybe a Serpent or something, or I'm going to push units forward to get maximum damage turn 1. So yeah, loads of cool stratagems, and I do really like that Farseer in there that kind of unlocks those things for you. So, section 3. I've told you how amazing this Eldar list is, but now you want to know how to tackle it and how to beat it. So it's quite a specific thing. So when you're looking at my secondaries and stuff like that, let's say I take like Wrath of Cain and things like that, and like behind enemy lines, it's me coming forward for you and stuff like that. So I do think a big thing that it doesn't like is the pressure. Because, you know, I need to spare those units to go and get behind enemy lines, and you know I've got to kill entire units as well with my shooting and with my combat if I'm taking those secondaries. Like the psychic ones are very easy for me to do, the psychic secondaries. So if you've got some sort of anti-psychic in there, I'm having to fall back onto my kill something and behind enemy lines and Rod. So Rod isn't an incredible secondary for me, but the Dire Avengers do unlock it, so I can get 8 points quite reliably on it. So yeah, like anti-psychic I don't like. The pressure, like something going forward. If it's just kind of soft, squishy stuff, that Eldar list has enough punch that it will kill a lot. But like mass vehicles, like mass high toughness, because you got to remember a lot of the stuff in that list is strength 4, and it's relying on Doom If for these to kill vehicles, it's relying on Doom. But I can only do 1 unit in a turn. So if you push quite a few vehicles forward, it can't really deal with them amazingly. Like it can chip some wounds off with the Shroud Runners, the Spears, and Baroth and stuff. So they can go in and hurt something without Doom, but it's primarily looking at that. So Imperial Knight, baby spam, whether you're Chaos or Imperial Knights, it doesn't really like those, especially because you're OBSEC as well and you're coming forward and dropping primaries and things like that. It has the damage to kill them, but it's a very tight game because, like I said, that pressure is there and you can't kill that many of them in a turn. So yeah, it doesn't like the high toughness stuff. It also doesn't like -1 to wound because, like I said, a lot of it's strength 4. As soon as you have anything that's -1 to wound, I'm wounding it on 5s or 6s. So for the same reason as the vehicles, it doesn't like it. So say like Necron Scorpex, I cannot put a Dire Avenger unit into a Scorpec unit because I know the moment I do, or a Hawk unit or anything like that, because the moment I do, they go, yeah, -1 to wound. So yeah, you're wounding me on 6s. So yeah, it doesn't like that. It doesn't like getting rushed by high toughness or -1 to wound. So yeah, that's it really. Again, you've got to remember they're very squishy Eldar. They're only toughness 3. There's a lot of 4-up saves and stuff in there. So out of line of sight shooting, it doesn't really like that much. I can combat it slightly because you're giving me +1 save, your -1 ballistic skill, and then with lightning fast, I can make you -1 to hit again. It makes a lot of things inefficient, but if you get 4 or 5 wounds through, you're probably killing three models, and like 3 Hawks or 3 Dire Avengers is a lot of firepower to lose. So it doesn't like out of line of sight either. But that's the thing. I've kind of built the list to not skew into anything. So whatever it plays, I like to think that there's no matchup where I go, yeah, I'm just out of this. Like I just can't win. It's got enough tools to try and get into any game. So section 4, modifications. Changes to the list that I'm thinking of making. So after I went to the tournament on the weekend, I ended up playing against Harlequins in the last round, which is typically a very difficult matchup for anyone. Like they are S tier at the moment. Harlequins are up there. And the only way really I can get into that game is I just have to go first. There's no 2 ways about it. And I explained this to Chris, my opponent. I was like, I've got to go first. I've got to come forward and I've got to open as many boats as I can. Like just take away the speed and stuff of the Harlequins and things like that. So, but I was very impressed with how those Harlequins came back and kind of and hit the Eldar and made it a really, really close game. So I do really like the Troop Master with Foot in the Future that goes bonkers far. I love the Troop, the way he was scoring Rod with just no effort at all was amazing. And that Death Jester as well, he's back, the broken Death Jester, and people really don't like him for very good reasons. And it's in my book, right? That is part of my book, and I can put Harlequins in there and squeeze them in. I'm going to find it quite difficult to squeeze them in because I've said that I like all these little combos that's going on in there. The least performing things in my list are probably like the Shining Spears because, like I said, I sat them back a lot. I didn't really go forward, so they're very much a kind of they're a plan B. And like the D cannon I put in there to sit on an objective and stuff, but I've got plenty of things that I can move around and sit there. So I think I'll be dropping like spears and D cannons and moving some points around to squeeze in a Harlequins patrol, and it just helps me put that pressure on characters because with the Shroud Runners and that Death Jester in there, it's characters that pop their head out will probably die. So I do really like that threat, and also as well, the way it improved, it's taking Rod from an 8 to quite a consistent 12 for me, which I think is very important, as we've said in the secondaries. So that's what I'm going to be looking into, is squeezing some Harlequins in there. Guys, thank you for watching. I hope you've learned something, and I've shed some light on things, and I can save you a couple of practice games and pinch those ideas. When I'm at tournaments, I'm taking pictures, I'm putting it in the Discord, I'm updating you guys at the end of the day on Facebook with hashtag make Eldar great again. So I'm really trying to bump them up there. They're my favourite faction. I've been playing them for a while now, and I just think they're incredible. So anything you guys can also recommend to add into the list, please put it in the comments and stuff and let me know. And like I said, join the elite, get in the Discord, and I'll let you know how I'm getting on in practice games and stuff like that, and we kind of share ideas with each other on how to make the list better. But guys, thank you for watching. If you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button and the notifications bell down there. And I'll see you next week for some more juicy Glasshammer content. Bye, guys.
Live stream Warhammer 40k games, meta-analysis, tournament reports. Hi guys, I'm Manny. I am one of the co-founders of Glasshammer Gaming. I'm one of the current top 5 ranked ITC players in the world, and I play for my international team, Team England, and we are the current reigning world champions. So we started Glasshammer Gaming at the start because we play a very high level, and we realized that a lot of content creators online were more narrative and not really focused on the competitive aspect of the game. And we thought it'd be really cool if we made battle reports, live streams and tactics videos to help players improve in their competitive game, and also for people who are looking to start getting into competitive play, help them along the way and give them some tips. We also have an elite service, and if you join up, you get more in-depth meta-analysis, competitive tournament reports, and even bigger discounts on our store, which are incredible in the first place, and you're basically getting some of the best discounts in the world. If you join up, you also get access to our Discord server, where there are lots of like-minded people who also want to be very competitive and play to the best of their ability, and you'll be added in there with all of them. There are different channels for every army, every faction, so you can talk to other players who play the same armies as you and improve together.